body language is another way of that commitment. A lot of times, and I know I'm guilty of it sometimes as well, when I'm in the middle of work and my son has to talk to me, and I'm looking at the screen, but I'm listening in it, but I'm looking at the screen and I'm talking. And I think it's hard to paying attention to your body language means that you're not looking at the screen when you're talking, that you turn to that person and you're looking them in the eye, or are you, just in case you say something else and you're repeating something else. What exactly, if you were to look at you from the outside in, what would you notice? So paying attention to your body language is very important because a lot of times it's what we drop first that gets across to our listeners. And that's where the room can open up for thinking or that impression altogether. Another way of that commitment is to take walks at the end of the day before a star or after a star, after the kids go to bed, and just encourage you to be with one another. Spending a night out for board games, crafts, painting, planting, all these are excellent ways when you can engage with each other in a different way. For example, a game or a hobby is overly very different. It allows you to engage with each other in some ways outside of just bedtime is something that I love, simply because right before bed is such a great time for reflection and really learning for a lot of things, a lot of things where you can go through discussion. So the other things I love asking my kids are, what was your favorite life? What made you sad? What made you frustrated? What made you laugh? Or what made you smile? Any of those simple questions can really open the door to a different conversation that are a lot more open-minded. And then the only thing with, I don't like to say this before, but I just want to reiterate again when you're listening to these sessions, or set your phones or devices to respect it wholeheartedly. I understand, I know parenting is hard, and parenting is even harder when we're in a pandemic. But be there as wholeheartedly as you can, and it's not that you do it perfectly every single time, but it's your practice and it's your effort to make that perfectly, for the most part. We are as parents, we're going to falter, we're going to make mistakes, and it's not that we throw our hands up in the air and just give up and think that, well, I'm always going to do this, so why even bother doing it different? And that mindset can really take you down a rabbit hole, but it's your effort with your practice that matters more. For example, if your kid comes to you and you're looking at your phone, but then you realize in the middle of the conversation and you drop your phone, that's going to matter more to your son or your daughter. And he or she will notice that more than when you didn't put the phone down at the start of that conversation. Another way to that commitment to communication is, and this is a hard one, but evaluate all that you say to understand what your family is actually hearing. In other words, if you were to hear all the things that you say, what would you categorize your words as? Would they be words of praise? Would they be words of anger or frustration or despair? Where would they fall in the category? And what do you speak into your family? And are your words going to help those around you rise up, or will they bring them down? And this is something, that's very difficult to do because it's hard to be your own critic. In some cases, when we are our own critics, we become our best critics, and that's where those negative thoughts come into play about how this is too much to even start, or why even bother, etc., etc. But be authentic with yourself, be true to yourself, and ask, if I were to look at myself from the outside in, if I were to stand on top of myself and to see, looking down, that I'm speaking to my mom or my dad or my husband or my kids, what are my words sounding like? What are they? What kind of an impression do they give off? Someone wise once said, the point is never the point, but the point is always the person. And I can't help but say that, we are in this beautiful month of mercy right now, and this can be a better time to pause and check in with yourself, to evaluate the words that you speak, and I really do hope that they are words of compassion and words of mercy to all those around you, but especially your family. Now, I've said a lot, and I hope I didn't tune out anybody. But if you all have questions, I would welcome you to ask questions and appreciate those, or any sort of comments that you might have.
That sounds fun. Really, like, I feel like this is a very awesome talk, mashallah. I mean, the points you made, I'm going to go ahead and summarize them, but something, for sure for me personally to reflect on as well. So I started off with people who joined in a little bit later, talking about, particularly about the telephone game and how towards the end, the message changes. And, when we often listen, she said we don't hear, which is true. And to communicate successfully, there's a few things she mentioned, a few points. So number one, she talked about finding the right time and place. Number two, she mentioned repeating or having the person who you spoke to repeat if they understood what was communicated. Number three, she said modeling a. Number four, she talked about checking our own emotions when we're speaking. And number five, she talked about is committing to communicate in a way that helps. So don't look at screens, spend time doing different activities, engaging with each other and your families. That might help ease some of the communication, like spending some time reflecting at bedtime, and then, like putting away the phones when someone's talking to you. And then she also, the last point she was mentioning was evaluating, what we're saying and what our family is hearing from our speech. So that would involve some self-reflection as well. Anything else that I'm missing there?
No, I think you captured most part.
Mashallah, very, very well put. I have a few questions here that are kind of something that chat to me, and then some that I had from before. So you can. Some of this was already stuff you mentioned. So we often hear about men don't talk, or the wife always nags, or the kids saying mom, dad are not fair. They don't listen to what we want. How do you address those kind of communication issues in families?
Couple of different points come to mind. One is, one of the things I often always say is that relationships are like planting seeds. You have to give it air, light, and water for that seedling to grow and to flourish and to survive, and for that seedling to bear its own fruit. When it comes to, and with that in mind, communication is one of those air, water, and light. It's one of those elements that continues to pour into that relationship, whether it be with your son, your daughter, your spouse, or someone else. And so when these statements are being said by your little Carol, where he says, you're not being fair, take that time to pause. Forget about what the argument or what the back and forth is, but ask your child, what is not fair about this? What am I not hearing from you? Help me understand. And it allows you to open up that communication and let your child speak to you. And when he says, I don't get enough time to play, or I feel like I'm always doing work, and at that point, that's when you can really hear and sense what is really going on. And it's not that he is trying to argue with you for the sake of argument, it's that maybe he's just a little tired. Maybe he's just want some downtime. Maybe you just need a break from all the habits of doing schoolwork all the time. And this is something that kids more and more each year are getting under the pressure of finishing schoolwork and having the endless homework that piles up on them. And just like us as adults, when we have a long work day and a hard work day, what do we want to do at the end of that day? We just want to unwind. We don't want to think. We want to do mindless activities that just allows us to be still. And so in the same way, when you pause the argument and pause the back and forth and allow your child to speak to you as far as, help me understand. What is it that I'm not hearing? What is unfair about this? Then it opens that door for hearing those emotions that are underneath to be able to communicate to you and articulate it back to you. Another point is, when you, I think there was something that you mentioned in the question about a husband or a spouse.
Yeah, like the thought that like men, quote unquote, like, men don't talk, or they have a hard time talking and communicating, or the men feel like the wife is always nagging. And I know you kind of mentioned it in your talk today as well.
And those are those emotions underneath. It's not that she's nagging just to nag. It's that maybe she's tired from doing all the housework all the time. Maybe she's not getting the support that she's needing. And some days are good, some days are bad. Some days we have it together, some days we don't. So if you're hearing the nagging, let that be a signal to say to you or to yourself that, what is behind the nagging? Why is she really nagging me? Why is all this coming out again? And the same goes for women towards their husbands when they don't talk. After a work day, after you're sitting in front of the screen and you're in meetings all the time and you're talking about work nonstop, and then to not have that transition to go towards your family is going to be very challenging. And so men, a lot of times, will stick to themselves, or they'll claim up, or they don't want to talk, and they just want to be silent. And then, making space for that transition is going to be important. So if you see, right now, everyone's working from home. So if you see that, he's turned off his computer and he's done for the day, instead of just bombarding him with, this needs to be done, that needs to be fixed, I need you to go here, I need you to go there, maybe it could be an hour where he gets to himself, where he gets to just recharge, recuperate, transition from work to home family life. And the same goes for moms, the same goes for wives. When we are having that hard, that long work day, or the work and home of mom life, it's even more challenging to just switch over at the snap of a finger. And it's also very possible that one spouse is more resilient than the other, and that's okay. But approach each other in the spirit of collaboration rather than against each other. Because when you're working together as partners, you're able to accomplish more for your family rather than the opposite. And you'll see that you'll get a lot farther in how you're able to manage and be with your children rather than otherwise. And it may be that, you're less irritable, you're less angry, you're less frustrated, you snap less, or your tone is different with your kids, you're more patient, etc., etc.
Thank you for that. I think we have less than 10 minutes left of this meeting, or on this current meeting, but if you go over a few questions, you can all just join back in and let me start it. But I have this one question. If anyone wants to jump in and ask questions, don't hesitate, please. This other question, so being that we are in a virtual world and we're mainly communicating through video calls, phone calls, and texting with our extended families and friends, there's also such thing as virtual communication errors and doing that properly. So how can we, it's happened, recently where, a text, personally I texted someone where, it was taken the wrong way, right? And it was fine to resolve the virtual communication. How, the same rules apply. miscommunication, misunderstanding. And so if you feel that your words that you sent through text or WhatsApp were misread or misunderstood, I would say jump on the phone and make a quick phone call and ask, I think I said this, I said this, but I think I may have gotten off on the wrong foot, or I said so and so, or yada yada yada, but now that I'm reading it again, I could see that it could be misinterpreted. So I just want to catch you on the phone and let you know that this is what I actually mean. When if you know that you're being misunderstood over text message, and you just let it be that way, and you try to work it out through text message, it's just going to be a lot harder, and might just be even more frustrating, or you might end up in a worse situation than where you were before. But get on the phone, get on a quick phone call, and just communicate what your intentions really were initially, and what you were trying to say, because it's a lot easier said sometimes when you're verbally speaking rather than when you're actually writing it out. Because when you write out text, it leaves it open for people's assumptions. It leaves it open for the reader to assume your tone and where you're coming from, and then like I said, it creates more of a space for misunderstanding and misinformation. Definitely. Anyone else with anything, any other questions on communication or on anything else that you think that I can help with? Alright. Nope, I don't have any other things for you guys. That's all, and thank you for joining us again for this and hosting this awesome talk for us again. Alhamdulillah. Lots of pointers, lots of good things to reflect on and learn from, inshallah. Anything that you'd like to add? No, just I understand sometimes it can be an overwhelming thing when we're trying to change so much at once. So I would say pick one thing and start from there. Pick one thing, reflect on it, see how you could do differently, and focus on just that one thing first. Because when we try to tackle too much at once, and we're all guilty of doing this, it ends up weighing us down in a lot harder ways than where we actually want to be. So